A judge in Winnipeg has found Jeremy Skibicki guilty of murder in the deaths of Rebecca Contois, Morgan Harris, Marcedes, Myran, and a fourth woman known as Buffalo Woman. Well, now their families will move forward, looking to the fall when a Winnipeg landfill will be searched for the remains of the women, saying the next steps is to bring them home. Joining us this morning from Vancouver is Negan Sinclair, columnist and professor of Native Studies at the University of Manitoba. Good to have you with us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
You have the unique perspective that I'm hoping you'll share with us. You were at the courthouse in Winnipeg. What was the moment like when the judge made the ruling of guilty?
It was a fairly long process in which a number of procedures happened that moment. The courtroom was filled with about 120 people, many members of the public, supporters, the victims' families, many police officers that were part of the investigation, and then about 24 media from all across the world. It took quite a long time to get to the point in which the announcement of the 4 guilty verdicts, all on different elements of the homicides that took place of 4 Indigenous women. But when it happened, there was barely a sound you could hear other than applause and crying and cheering. Justice Joel actually asked the crowd to keep their cheering to a minimum, and it was a very emotionally high-charged atmosphere.
This week, the Assembly of First Nations called for an independent inquiry into this case. What are they hoping to learn?
So the real problem in this investigation is that if these were not Indigenous women, this investigation would have started a great deal sooner. The whereabouts of these women had been missing for quite a while before an investigation had taken place. And Winnipeg police have admitted, alongside the Crown prosecution yesterday, the announcement or the statement following the guilty verdicts, that they would not have been able to proceed with an investigation without the admittance of the killing by Jeremy Skibicki. That tells you that there is a real poor infrastructure or perhaps a lack of motivation by the Winnipeg police to search for Indigenous women when they go missing. It's well known that Jeremy Skibicki he used to go to shelters looking for women that he could prey upon and that he could take back to his apartment and then appeal to them, offering different resources and a place to stay. So what he was doing is he was preying upon some of the most marginalized in history by Canadian policy. And the fact is that this was a much larger systemic issue, not just involving the treatment of Indigenous women and girls, but also the systems that were meant to protect all Canadians in this country.
The federal government and the Manitoba government have each promised $20 million towards this search in the Prairie Green Landfill for the remains of the women. What does this step mean for the families? This is a fight that didn't just start with this trial.
This is something that's been going on for decades. The treatment of Indigenous women and girls and Two-Spirit peoples have been atrocious. It's been well documented in the National Inquiry on Murder Missing Indigenous Women and Girls. And so really we need a large-scale study. That's what the chiefs were calling for. And the reality is that there are remains, Winnipeg police believe there are remains of 2 of the victims in the Prairie Green Landfill, which is one of the landfills that service the city of Winnipeg. They know that the remains of 2 of those women were put into a dumpster, which ended up in that landfill. While they may not be precisely sure exactly whereabouts in that landfill, we are talking about a multi-football field size landfill. We have to be able to treat these Indigenous women just like any other people in this country, any other human beings, and to give those families solace and support to find the remains of those women. But those women's remains were weaponized during the last provincial election campaign when the ruling provincial government, which was thrown out by Manitobans, refused simply to do that landfill search. And the current Manitoba government has committed, alongside the federal government, $40 million to proceed with that search, and it will begin later this fall.
Yeah, we've been following the story closely at Your Morning, and I remember when the fight was on to even have the landfill closed in the first place before the push to have it searched. Negan Sinclair, it was great to have your perspective, both from being in the courtroom and then the follow-up this morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Miigwech, thanks for having me, Anne-Marie.
All right.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.